Good morning, everyone. It is Monday. Had an early start this morning. Had to do some real live work. Did not go fishing or bear hunting. So I figured since I actually had to do some real live work, I should do a podcast and have somebody on that I've wanted to talk to for quite some time. I think the total conversation between me and Brad was about 15 minutes at the Western Hunt Expo. But I have Brad Brooks with Argali Outdoors on. Dude, you make some good stuff. I gotta say, I haven't got to try all of it till recently, but yeah, I'm happy to have you on.
Oh man, yeah, nice to finally meet you. I haven't feel like it's yeah, just like West. It was nice to finally shake hands at Western on Expo because we've never had the chance to do that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
thanks
and
for having me on.
I've used some of your stuff a little bit off and on, and I've had definitely had clients use it, but obviously in the position I was in, um, I didn't really have a chance to get to use
Uh huh.
everything at great length. So, but you offer sleeping bags and tents and trekking poles and stoves. I'm trying to think,
Yeah,
knives,
yeah,
game bags, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah. We kind of do a little bit of everything. Yeah, we're yeah, we do a lot of different categories. We started with game bags were like the first thing um, that I designed, and then we made. Gosh, which sounds funny now because uh, everybody makes game bags, but it was like at the time, and I don't know how much you're paying attention, but like at the time there weren't very many, I'd say, like high end options out there. Um, so it was, you know, feel like something new in the marketplace at the time. But yeah, since then we've kind of we've expanded out over the years, kind of gradually and intentionally. Um,
Yeah.
from everything from hard goods to soft goods. And yeah, we offer tents, sleeping bags, trekking poles, sleeping bags, knives.
Yeah.
So
No,
a
and
lot of different things.
I do remember because I had come out with game bags with a guy in Alaska. And
Yeah,
so I mean, and really there was Pristine Ventures. Larry Bartlett had
yep,
game bags.
yep,
Caribou Gear had game bags. You came out with
yep.
game bags. And then, oh my Lord, everybody had a game. And I mean, I want to
Yeah.
say that Patrick Smith and he started it, but I say not everybody had game bags, but the skinnier, taller one for, like, we called it a boned out meat bag. But man,
Yep.
there wasn't high quality material out there for game bags, and,
No.
and that's something that you definitely capitalized on, and then above and beyond that, you're a good dude and have a good company. So did that take off like you'd hoped, and you were like, holy shit,
No.
I'm not prepared to make this many
No.
game bags?
Oh well, yeah, kind of. That's a funny story. So it's fine. Actually, we should talk about that because like I actually really liked a lot of the parts of Larry's bags. The things I didn't like were the paracord. Um, and this is nothing against. Like I don't like saying bad things about any other product out there. Like it was a great product. It just wasn't. Um, it didn't have all the features that I really wanted. I'm not a, and this is a total personal preference thing because I know a lot of people do like them. I don't really like the tall, skinny style bags. Um, I find it's like harder to get like big muscle groups in them. But I know a lot of people like have a different opinion on that, which is totally legitimate. It's a preference thing. Um, so yeah, I decided I want to make game bags, and then we made them. We made them all locally here. I'm in Boise, and it was a dude. This is a total nightmare learning how to make products at scale and just quality issues. So yeah, it was a battle. I remember our first run of game bags ever. Like I had no idea if anybody would buy one or two sets, or if we would. I had no concept of how they would do, none whatsoever. We had a little bit of an audience through some films we had done because we originally were a filmmaking company, and to my like surprise, we sold out of that first run, which wasn't huge, but we sold out of it in I don't know 2.5 weeks. And then it's like the problem that every small business owner faces. It's like, okay, how do we make more? How do we pay to make more? Like, I don't have a lot of money. Like, I I don't have like a rich family, or you know what I mean. Like I don't have
Yeah,
any outside
I know
investors.
exactly what you mean. Actually, yeah, I do know.
Yeah, yeah. So like it was a story of just trying to figure out how to bootstrap a business, and it really I didn't consider it a business at that point in time. I was just like I'm really interested in making this one thing, and then and seeing how well we could do it. And yeah, as it grew over time, it was I didn't really have expectations. You know, you have hopes, but that's different than concrete expectations. I didn't expect it to grow into what it did. I really
So
honestly did.
let's talk about this for a second because I just was the speaker for Montana bow hunter banquet, and
Hmm.
normally when you do those, you talk about a hunting story, and so I didn't. In my seminar, I actually talked about what it takes to make things in America. When you buy things
Hmm.
overseas, where does the margin go? What
Yeah.
and then and really lifted the veil. Like people are like, are you kidding me? That's how it works. And then I talked about obviously berry compliancy, trade compliancy.
Yep.
What you can have a product sewn in the U.S. with 50% Asian made components and still call it made in America. It's kind of an on your honor system. And
Oh
so
yeah.
I talked a lot about
Absolutely.
that. And then, for the banquet, I talked about other things that people probably didn't expect. But when you get started, right, if you and I decided tomorrow we're going to make game bags and you're a film guy, I'm experienced in the outdoors, I've got a following, and then you're like, all right,
Hmm.
and we suck every bit of money up we have into selling them, and we sell out of them. You're like, well, what do we? Okay, we got to order more. All right, so you order more, but you have, it took money to get it going, so you have to pay that back. Then you have to
Yep.
place for your minimum order quantity, and then you're making a little bit of money each time. But you're not really making any money each time if you're growing the company because it goes back into that, right? Because I mean,
Oh
you're going to make a little,
yeah. You're
but
not making anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to keep the lights on or whatever. Well, I just don't think clothing's the same way. I think people have, you can eventually make a lot of money in clothing or packs or
Yeah.
whatever, but you and Marsupial is a good example. You kind of bootstrapped
Hmm.
it from the beginning. Or from my knowledge, bootstrapped it from the beginning. I could be wrong. Maybe you have billionaire parents, but from my knowledge, you bootstrapped it.
Yeah. 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 I think
Pitfalls,
it's.
like what
Oh,
happened, right? Was there times that you're like, oh, we're not gonna make it, or I bit off way more than I could chew. This sucks. I mean, talk about that a little bit.
oh my God, dude. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk. Let me start at this. Like, I was very committed to making everything in America, and I feel like this is like the conversation of the day, right now. Um, it almost bankrupted me early on, trying to make everything here. I wasn't making. I learned a lot of lessons about margin and cost, and we so early on, like talk about making money. The cost to make a set of game bags was so much for us that like we weren't really making any money. The extent that we were, it was all any money we did make was just going back into doing more, making more game bags. And then we had, I was just battling. We would have to be really meticulous about our own internal quality control because the sewing was just not consistent. It was really hard to get consistent sewing. I moved to three different sew shops and had problems at all of them. The last the straw that broke the camel's back for me to move our production out of the U.S. was I had a run of game bags that went out to customers, and the seams were just kind of falling apart, and we had to replace all of those game bags with ones that were done properly. And when you're getting going, if you have, let's call it $50,000 in product that you have to shell out of your pocket, like that's a lot of money, right? Um, and so after just constant headaches, I made the decision to go to Vietnam and find a good um, sewing company. And it's yeah, I mean I could talk about this all day, but like the quality, the consistency has just been flawless
Well,
for years. I've used the same company for years, and they're great at
I'm,
it.
I'll take it.
Um,
I'll take it from you for a sec, and then you you dive back in because we've both had to deal
Yeah.
with this. So one of the things, if you take and again, anybody listening in, I don't serve any master now, so I can talk about whatever I want. So, hopefully that brings validity that I'm telling the truth when I say this. So you have a Kafaru, an EXO, a Stone Glacier, and a Mystery Range. Okay. Kafaru, at this point, to my knowledge, is the only one that is, for the most part, all American made, needle, thread, everything, minus some of the fabric that they just don't make in the U.S. Stone Glacier, pretty close. EXO, pretty close. And they might be, I may be wrong. And this isn't a slight when I talk about this, but then you go to a Mystery Ranch, which is sewn overseas.
Mm-hmm.
You have something called the Asian hand because they can sew. And there are 100% shitty sweatshops over there that sew poorly, but they can do things we just can't do. And so while people scream patriotism and so on and so forth, they go to Walmart. They buy the cheapest thing you can possibly get at the highest quality. And would you agree with everything I'm saying so far?
I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to build a business, you have to look at, okay, if I'm going to pick it, but we'll say backpacks, right? If I'm going to make backpacks, you have to make a very hard line stance that you're not going to ever be the biggest. You may be the best. You're not going to have the highest profit margin or whatever, or game bags, because your competitors are going to find loopholes around what you may have pioneered or you have done, or find a better way to do it, and do it cheaper. And that may be somewhat either going overseas or using overseas components or whatever else. It sounds like you found that very quickly.
Yeah, I did. And what I realized too is the American sewing companies, they could not handle the volume that we got to eventually and make them consistently at a quality level. They just couldn't handle it. And, we can talk all day about whether or not why. I just knew, I didn't have, I wasn't trying to it wasn't political for me. It was just survival. I'm like, this is a necessity. This is not something, the only other alternative would have been for me to invest, I don't know, however much money in a space and try and find, sewers and sewing machines and all that, which I just didn't have to be blank. That's a ton of capital investment that I didn't have. So I would have had to go find investors to do that, which just seemed like it was not something that I wanted to do, or really, I don't know if I could have done that. And the other problem, which and I know a lot of people understand this, is sewing is a skilled labor.
And we do not teach it in the U.S. anymore.
We do not teach it in the U.S. And, so this is interesting. So I have, speaking of materials, our game bags are made in the same factory that one of the factories they use and a lot of other backpack manufacturers use. I've been on the sewing floor and talked to, at length with the sewers there. The company won't let one of their sewers touch one of their customers' products until they have been sewing at that factory. They're practicing for 3 to 4 months before they ever even let them touch a customer's product. They treat them well, they pay them well, and they're just really good at it. You get a good factory, and they're just very good at what they do. So, and it's just one of those things. It's not nobody. I think this is not a bold statement, but I don't think most people in America aspire to be working behind most Americans aspire to be behind a sewing machine as a career path. I think it can be a great job for people, but it's not something that most Americans want to do, which is why I think naturally that labor force is largely gone overseas. I totally respect anybody who can stick to 100% made in America on any product. I just know for certain products it's very difficult to do it here. I think it's easier for some product categories to do it here and make money at it. Anyways, I digress. But it was for us, Aaron. It was not I wanted to do it here so badly, and it was such a pain in the butt. And then I eventually moved everything overseas, and it was like all of those problems went away, and we could just focus on other things rather than me just beating my head against the wall, battling with the soap shops you're working with, battling with quality control, and worried that like our reputation as a brand is going to go down the drain because I couldn't count on our products being at a premium level, which is what we were saying they were. So it was just like it was a very simple decision for me because I didn't know how else we could actually do this thing.
Well, and so here's the thing, like, was we're talking about this, and again, I hope that this is taken in context as I say this. When I say taken in context, when you look at people have to be willing to pay the price for American made, obviously, but they also have to have a product that is, equivalent or better in at least durability than a potential overseas option. And so, like, right now I'm testing a bunch of different backpacks, for example, in all kinds of shelters and all kinds of shit. And when you look at it to find, is there a finite difference? Is there a large difference? Is there, again, like, you want to keep everything you can made in the US, but there's going to be
Absolutely.
certain times that it doesn't make sense. And
Right.
I'm going to use t-shirts for an example, because like I got blasted for having non-American made t-shirts when I was always getting blasted for something, whether it was my fault or not. But I liked the t-shirts from overseas. They fit me personally better. And so I'm like, look, I'm sorry, but if I had a shirt that fit the same way that wasn't $90, I would take a look. But these, the American people, including me, you got to take a good hard look. You're complaining to me on an Asian made phone because there's no American option. You are probably driving a vehicle, even if it's the Tundra, I think, and the F-150, and the, believe it, Honda Pilot are the three most American made vehicles, but they're not made in America. They're assembled here with a lot of Asian components, right? And so you have to look in reality, like if I go to buy a shelter, I'm looking to buy a shelter that fits certain requirements out of the gate. And out of those, I have 6 options that fit the requirement. Now I look at, okay, at the requirements they fit, where's the durability at and what's the price point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, if the Asian one, the way the American, if the Asian made one fits it and it's cheaper, that's what they're buying. I mean, and that's generally, would you tell me when I'm out in left field?
I would agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Like even when we were like you talk about made in America, when we were making our game bags and they were made in America, but all the componentry came from overseas, the fabric. I think that what I think I'm a patriot through and through. I love this country. I take a lot of pride in what I do and what Argali does, and we're an American company. I think that there is I have this ideal that I would certainly love if we could do everything here, everything. But we don't we don't for a variety of reasons. We have learned we like to outsource the things that we don't want to do, as we have become a wealthier nation, so we can focus on doing higher income earning jobs as a country. We prioritize that, and what that has meant is there's a reason that like countries like Vietnam, Taiwan, Cambodia, they have invested for decades in manufacturing, especially on the soft goods space, capacity, training, and it's a skilled labor force, and they have a very, very good skilled labor force. They can handle doing t-shirts, depending on the country and the factory, but they can make at scale tents, sleeping bags, whatever, very, very well. The best manufacturers in the world for a lot of soft good products. I'm not talking about backpacks. They are not in the U.S. And I don't, I'm being honest, they're never going to be here. I don't care what the tariff rates are. Like, I just don't think it's coming back.
Well,
And I think it's really a labor force issue.
yeah, I was just saying, let's talk about that. You have to have Americans that want to work and do those
Correct.
skills. And so when, I mean, obviously that we're getting way away from the badass products you make, but when you look at this,
Yeah.
you know, and I will just list. I mean, if you don't mind, I'm gonna list. You've got multiple different shelter companies.
Yeah.
You've got you and Hilleberg and Seek, and I think Peaks makes some kind of similar. Like
Hmm.
I don't get on forums anymore. One, I can't handle reading about myself. Two, the hypocrisy in some of it is a bit
Yeah.
of a stretch, right? So the reality I would say is Patrick, a guy that I look at as a dad, kind of pioneered the ultralight shelter
Yeah.
stove thing, and I don't
Yeah.
think anybody would really
Yeah.
argue that.
No, I don't.
And so as time went on, and I'm at fault with this at the same time. When as time went on, you have to evolve, right? And
Hmm.
but you can evolve as much as you want. If the material isn't evolving, that's what's readily available to you, that can be a problem. And then you'll have material that is slightly different. Let's say a
Hmm.
4% reduction, 5% reduction in abrasion resistance. I mean, whatever, pick it. And then you may
Hmm.
have a material coming from overseas that is the same price, but is a 20% increase in durability or abrasion resistance. And then
Yeah.
you may have something that is a 30% reduction in all of that, but is a 80% reduction in price. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, but
Yeah.
people get the point.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but the bottom line is, does the end consumer know, care? Will they see a difference, or will it serve them well for a while, right? And when I say a
Yeah.
while, like if I buy your shelter, which is the one I'm screwing around with now, and that shelter, I'm oblivious to the world. I don't know anything about forums. I don't know shit. I just
Yeah.
go up and I pitch the tent. Fuck, this fucker's badass. That's the end of the story, right? But if I Google,
Yeah.
I may Google that your non-stretch material, this is the bad things about it, or that this other
Yeah.
material could potentially do this or whatever. But the reality is, if you took all that away, you pitch the tent, you sleep in it, and it serves you well, that's all you need. And so some of the stuff that people will talk about is a little bit lost in the sauce, I guess, that really doesn't matter that much, and then other things do. And again, as I'm talking about this, dive in. Are you agreeing with some of this? I mean, what are your thoughts on with what I'm talking about? Because you making multiple different things. I'll give you a prime example. There is a walking stick that multiple people make, right? You make it as
Hmm.
well. Um, and these walking sticks, right? They all serve kind of the same purpose. They help you get up the hill.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have Black Diamond and Lecky and all these other ones. Why would somebody buy your walking stick?
Yeah. Let me start with your first question there. Like, my commitment and my focus has always been on quality first, and I think that most people just they want a good product. I think your average consumer is, like you said, like, they're not paying attention to the politics of where things are made. They're like, is this a really good product? Do I like the brand? Like, they're making. I think we all make purchasing decisions largely based on. I mean, quality, I think, is probably the most important thing. Perhaps price as well. But those are the first thresholds. And I've always focused on, like, trying to find the best fabric, design, whatever, right? And not thought about, um, the country of origin is the most important thing for my brand. And I will continue to do that. So, like, when it comes to fabrics, like, I think the best waterproof textiles right now are being made in either Korea or Taiwan,
Yeah,
because those companies have
that
they've been invested.
That's
What's
not
that?
a, I don't think that's a definite. That is a
Right.
fact, buddy. Like
Right.
yeah.
And they've been working on it. I mean, they've been investing. So when it came to like our tents, like, so we use a polyester based fabric. And as you know, like I'd say like the standard in the backpacking world, but certainly in the hunting industry has been nylon for a long time. And when I was doing I do a lot of homework and research and testing myself. Like I don't take everybody else's word for it. Like I will do my own homework. And when I started looking at polyester versus nylon and what some of the fabric companies in Korea are doing right now with polys, it's like, man, they've come a long way in terms of increasing the durability of polyester. In fact, like we couldn't tell the difference in tear strength between like comparing a poly, a nano ripstop poly or fabric made to a nano ripstop nylon at the same weight, same coating, everything. Like it was almost, it was like almost identical. But that's not so we decided to use a poly because you don't have the same sag effect, right? But so that's just like an example of like I have always been very committed to focusing on making the best possible product and sort of ignoring the sort of whatever you're going to call it, like politics of the where things are made necessarily. So let me get back to the trekking pole. So like
Hold on before you move to the trekking pole.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
because you're answering this just like I'd hoped you would. So when you look at the sil poly compared to sil nylon,
yeah,
years ago I would have said, and you were wrong years ago.
yeah.
Technology, which is what I brought up, the technology part of it, advances faster than anyone can possibly believe. So when you look at, sil nylon, and there's at a molecular level, when you look at sil nylon, how it's built, right? When it's cooked in the pot, right? When it's made from the beginning, how long the strands are, there's a lot to it. Okay. And then how it's
Mm-hmm.
coated is another part of it.
Yep.
And then, again, you can pick that apart to death. The thing is, if I go take your shelter and I do abrasion resistance tests against that and 4 other tents, can I see a difference, right? And obviously,
Mm-hmm.
as you know, I'm a gear junkie and test a ton of stuff
Yep.
out. That was kind of my point to like, if you just go pitch the tent and it lasts 10 years and it serves you well, was there a 0.5% difference in
Right.
something, right? And can you
Right.
tell? Can you see it? And so, the thing with the stretching of the sil poly, because the first time I saw your shelter, when I say saw it, I saw it online, but the first time I saw your shelter was a client, and I poke around and look, and he was oblivious. He just bought it at a show from you. He didn't know anything,
Right.
right? He
Right.
just like, all right, I buy it. It looks cool. With that though, like when the consumer's purchasing, and this is with any shelter, quality, like one bad review is 100 times worse than 100 good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when you look at the quality part of it, which is, quality of the fabric, but the sewing of the fabric,
Right.
together, right. That's a big part of it is, are you having higher than a 1% warranty ratio or whatever else? So those,
Yep.
I'm agreeing with everything that you say, because the sag portion of the tent, while not life altering and ending, is a pain in the butt at times, right? When you have a lot of sag,
Yeah.
on the shelter. The next thing, people will look at, does it breathability? I've argued with guys on this as far as sil nylon, sil poly.
Yeah.
Condensation is condensation, and I don't give a shit what you have. It's coated. It's
Oh
going
yeah.
to condensate. There is
Yep.
no way around that. Like, you're not getting out of that one.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that kind of thing did you battle in the beginning with the sil poly, of people, chiming in about sil nylon and things of that nature? Did you kind of ignore it and just proceed forward?
Oh man. Yeah. We were swimming upstream. I feel like in some ways I'm still swimming upstream with some people. They just can't. I'm not gonna name any other companies. Let's just say there were some other companies in our space who took took offense that we were using silk poly and directly started attacking polyester in a very direct way. I've
I
never,
know
Aaron.
exactly who it is because I've had screenshots for people for me to chime in, and I'm like, no, I'm not
Yeah,
diving
I
into
don't.
that shit because I don't care.
No, yeah, I know you do, and I don't either, man. I don't. I really just try and live a drama-free life, and I just don't focus on negativity, and so it doesn't bother me. But like there was a very direct, I call it a campaign to demonize polyester to cast doubt on it. And I so yes, like for sure we battled it, and I think there was a trust issue that people had because it's not something that a lot of hunting brands use. It's also not entirely prevalent in the even in the backpacking world. Although you've seen there has been a trend in the last I'd say 2 to 3 years
Yeah,
of a
it's
lot of
changing. Yeah.
you. It's changing, right? You're seeing a lot of people switching to poly in the backpacking world. And I always tell people, like, I wrote a whole article on this. I'm like, you know, nylon was superior to polyester for a long time. It was, like you said, like it was undeniable. The data and evidence is undeniable. But I'm like, things change, like technology changes. And if you just look at the data, like nylon can be, like you said, like let's call it 0.5% stronger. But as an end user, like, does that, or in the field, are you going to notice a 0.5% difference? Like, no, you won't. You'll never notice it.
The,
What you will notice though is, especially if the bigger tent, is if like you're getting some really bad sagging going on, it's touching your sleeping bag, and you're annoyed with that. But I always, again, like our focus has been on just like functionality and letting the sort of the data speak for itself. And even if that means like we're swimming upstream, I'm okay with that because it's the right thing to do. Because my focus has always been on quality and trying to solve what I perceive to be the problems that I'm encountering as a hunter, as a backcountry hunter in particular. And hopefully, my hope has always been that other people over time will at least understand where we're coming from, even if they don't agree. Right? Like I think reasonable people can disagree on gear choices about why you use that or why I use this, whatever. That's okay to me. But I think that my hope has always been that people will at least be like, I understand why you made that choice. I get why you use polyester. On the condensation thing, that's I always tell people like you won't notice any difference between a polyester and a nylon tent when it comes to condensation. It's coated with silicone. It's a coating issue, not a fabric
can't.
issue.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, and I would, with the risk of sounding, arrogant, I would say very few people have more experience overall than I do from not just living in a tent, but also building tents and shelters and whatever else. And
yeah.
If there is a difference, I would like to see how someone quantified that, because wet is wet, right? Like condensation is condensation, and so there's so many variable degrees of, did you set it up in grass? Was there a little wind? Was there this? Was there that? And then I don't know what you would have, some crazy towel that I don't know, a sponge you put on and it sucked up 0.0075 more water. I mean, it's almost unquantifiable because condensation is condensation.
Yeah, absolutely. The only difference I've noticed, I don't know if you ever played around with this is Dyneema. Dyneema doesn't seem to condensate nearly as bad, and I don't know why exactly.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, no. I mean, I could try to explain, why from as far as how it's sewn and built in the molecular level of the material, but I don't want to dive into the Cuban fiber thing too far and confuse people even more than they already are. But
I know.
The other thing though with Cuban fiber, going back, I would agree with everything you say on the sil nylon, sil poly, except clothing. Nylon, I feel nylon is still better in clothing when applicable, when you can use it, compared to polyester. And it's totally different.
Oh, okay.
It's just poly is in the name of both. Nylon is a little better in clothing, but I would say in shelters, I don't I can't find a
Yeah,
difference.
yeah,
And believe
yeah.
me, dude, like I've your shelter since I got one from you. I've definitely put a lot of time because I hate to talk about something until I've used it a lot. And when I say a lot, like I don't do the front yard review too much. You know what I mean? I'm talking a lot.
Yeah,
And so, um,
yeah,
but no, I mean, I would agree with everything you're saying. The Cuban fiber is a little bit different, but when you talk about Cuban fiber, you got to talk about price, right? Like I'm not going to talk
oh
about
my God, yeah.
what your shit is
So
a yard, but I mean, I know what sil nylon and sil poly are a yard.
yeah.
And it, to my knowledge now, Cuban is 3 times more.
Oh, dude,
Is
it's
that correct?
five,
Five.
five
Okay,
x,
yeah, it's quite a bit.
5x, yeah, a yard, just the straight material cost. Like I'm not even like it's yeah, it's 5x the cost for me. So yeah, it's expensive. But yeah, it's a whole nother rabbit hole. But yeah, it's like yeah, I'm not just so you know, I'm not making a comment about clothing. I'm just talking about like
I
pet
only
fabric here.
just from being shell shocked and browbeat from being taken out of context. And when I do that, just know I'm not doing that because you're saying that. I'm just making sure people understand because they'll hear that and immediately think we're clothing is the same way, and
Yeah,
it's not.
no,
But
no, just 10.
when we're talking about the shelter thing though, like on the sil poly sil nylon, again, if you're oblivious to the internet and you just go out and use it, I would say blind taster's choice test. Nobody's gonna ever know the difference. And when you know, again, the sagging part, you'll know. Like you do know that one. That is very quantifiable. On the sagging portion of it.
Yeah,
Because yours really, if it sags, it's very, very, I mean, I would say it's a difference of 90% in sag compared to yours and compared to a standard sil nylon shelter. Yours is a little, but man, it's almost not
yeah,
noticeable.
yeah. You'll see like what typically happens if let's say you get some wet weather like and you know this like typically what's going to happen is either the paracord on the line lock will stretch out, or your stakes might move a little bit. It's not zero sag with polyester, but polyester is just naturally hydrophobic, so you know it doesn't. It can absorb. I think it's 0.5% um, uh, stretch on the fabric is what it can do. It's pretty minimal, but there are other ways. You know, your tent can kind of sag that maybe it's not the fabric necessarily, but maybe
Center pole's another one is the ground
center
settles that
pole can
people don't
sink
probably
down.
realize. Yeah.
Yeah, all of our so just the one thing I'd say about our tent line, Aaron, is like I wanted when I was started working on these tents, I wanted all of them to sort of pitch the same way, and I there are very few products that we make that I feel like I've invented anything. I feel like we're innovating on stuff that's already out there.
Dude,
I don't claim
that's
but
everyone though, man. That's everyone.
right,
That's
right,
I mean,
right,
again, go off the deep end here. Like if I come out with a backpack now, all I'm gonna do is take all the shit I've ever done and everyone else and tweak it to what I perceive as better. And anyone that says they're doing
right.
anything different is lying. Like
I agree.
that
I agree.
and there's no anybody that dives in. I mean, like I see people. I'll bring up the Kafaru arc frame. I saw someone say something to the effect of it was copied off of another frame, and you know, my initial thought to that was, really, you're going to tell me I'm copying? Like everyone's copied Kafaru in some way, right? I mean, and I don't
Yeah,
mind, right? Like it's part of making a business better. Like it makes you stay hungry.
sure.
So, but I would say
Our,
you
yeah,
probably had. I would say the Sil Poly thing was definitely a big gamble for you, but was also very, very much a good thing.
yeah. And the other thing with our, it was, and I agree with you, man. Like our just a comment on that. Like I don't, um, I don't take it personally when I feel like other brands or companies might, you know, quote unquote, borrow something we've done because I think we're all, if we're being honest, as gearheads and hunters, we have been either consciously or subconsciously using things for a while now, and then we might think of something, a new take on something, or something we want to do that's different, but we are collating all of our experience with other gear, and whether or not you're intentionally like using another product to design your product or not, your experience and your ideas are built off of your experience with other brand products. That's just the facts, right? I'd say like the thing that the fabric with our tents was unique. I'd say like I wanted all of our tents pitched more or less the exact same way as you go from the 1 to the 8 person, because pitch speed is really important to me. I've used teepee style tents for a lot of years. I don't know that I ever figured out how to pitch a teepee super well, if I'm being honest, Aaron. Like out the gate, I always feel like I had to mess around with it, and it's probably just a me thing. But I wanted all of them to be sort of modified rectangular shapes, so they were pretty simple and easy to pitch. The fabric was a big one. We have our own, we call our arc stove jack, that you can zip out the stove jack. It still is a unique, different thing. So it's like a functionality issue. And then I'd say the one thing that also is like similar to what other folks do, but a little different, is the modularity of our tents. Like it's if you really sort of drill down into the way you can do like half insert, full insert, half floor with all of our tents, it's pretty consistent across our line that you can do. You can pick and choose your pieces. You can do the same thing with other some other tents out there, but ours are very consistent across our line in terms of how they function. And then just the way those pieces connect is we try to make them simpler and easier to connect. So like the inserts in the floor to the tent itself.
And that's
so
the way that you did that is fairly innovative. The simplicity of yours, I would say is at a fairly high level, right? I mean, when I say simplicity at a high level, you can't really fuck it up, which is a bonus for you and customer service and everything. But as far as how you tension in the the half cert or whatever, that hadn't really been done quite like that before that I had seen. Not exactly like that. On that note, I got to interrupt. When are you? I went to buy a half cert yesterday, and I can't, or 2 days ago. When are you getting those in stock so I can get one for the Rincon?
We actually have them now. We've got we had a bunch of pre-orders. Wait, which half insert for which tent?
The 2P.
That's a good question. I thought we had those in stock. If we don't, they should be here now. We've got we did a pre-sale a little while back, and it's been a furious amount of seam sealing. Our team's been working all weekend and all this week trying to get caught up on orders. So we just haven't put them back on the website as in stock until we get through taking care of all the pre-sale customers.
Hold a couple for me. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I won't interrupt. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're good. Wait, what were we talking about again? Oh, the way the half inserts connect. Yeah, I don't know of anybody else that does it the way we do either. But having it, I think just having your tent. Let me back up. My approach to gear design is that if you don't think about something and you're not conscious of the way it functions, it just works and you just pitch it and you just use it. That's really the ultimate goal, is to just have it work and not be something where you're struggling with it. That really to me is a success. And so when it came to, for me, working on the way it pitched, the way all the pieces connected on the inside, it had to be relatively intuitive, and it just had to work without a bunch of fussing around. And if my hope is that most people just don't even think about it. They don't even notice. They're not even consciously thinking about like how easy it is or how much or whatever. They're just like, I don't know, I just pitched the tent and it works. That's great. To me, if that's all they think about, that's fantastic. Because to me, that tells me it's not something that they have consciously noticed is annoying or difficult, which to me tells me that like it's working as it should.
Yeah. No, and I think that, when we do like these courses and classes, like when you do kind of more the gentleman's course where you're not getting the shit kicked out of you on a backpack trip. One of the things that I do, because I just don't think people realize this, I will throw 4 shelters out. And obviously everybody has some experience, and I'll be like, pitch them all, guy them out,
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch. Inevitably, one of those, they're going to be like a monkey fucking a football, and it'll
Yeah.
blow down. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, hey,
Oh, yeah.
here's why it's like that, and does it need to be like that? Maybe, maybe not, and I'll explain it, because the bottom line, for me, and pretty much anyone that gets serious into this is when I get somewhere and I a storm is coming, speed of pitch is huge, right? That's a big one, because I need to get the shelter up as fast as I
Yep.
can, because the storm's
Yeah.
coming. The next one, I'm just fucking lazy, right? I don't want to spend a ton of time pitching a shelter.
No.
The next one is I would say how much bang do you get for the buck? Meaning, in the case of the one that I was pretty hyped up with yours, is if I want to save weight, I don't want to put a half cert in. I'm not worried about bugs. Good. I want to put a half cert in. I don't want to have a PhD on how it's done, right? I want it to be
Yeah.
simple, because I'm lazy. And when I say I'm lazy, if I've backpacked in 20 miles, I'm not that lazy. But that portion of the trip,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm lazy, right? And so I want to do that. Now, when it gets cold, I generally, if I don't want to use a 4-season shelter and I have wood around, I want to be able to add a stove. So you solved all those problems with that. So you have all of those parts and pieces that are again, you could kind of get a one do all, shelter, rather than having, in my case, 14 of them. I got a ton of shelters at the house.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do is to do exactly what you just talked about doing with our product, is give it to somebody that has had zero instruction on how to use it or pitch it, and just like watch them try to use it. Because you're right, most people. So if you buy a tent from us, you're going to get a follow-up email that has videos showing you how to pitch it, how to use it. A lot of people watch those emails, but I'd say it's like, I don't know, 50-50 on people that actually watch the videos. And you have to try and make something to where it's like, you don't have to watch the video in order to like figure it out. But yeah, I enjoy watching people try and use something that they haven't had instruction on, because what that tells me is have I made this intuitive enough for the average person to figure out how to use it without needing a manual. This is not an IKEA piece of furniture, right? This is a tent. And if I, as a user, need to bust out a manual to figure out how to use something in the field, I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't want to have to. We're all busy. Everybody's busy, right? I don't want to have to like look at a manual, figure out how to use something. I figure I'm a pretty smart guy. I understand how things work. Like, usually I can figure something out without having to consult the manual.
Well, and we're men. We don't read manuals.
Well, that's right. I don't want to ask for help. I'm not asking for directions. But yeah, it is. It's just I think that's really important, is to try and figure out how to make something. And I have actually we've changed things before based on whether or not it was intuitive. I've changed designs. I thought it was, there have been things where I'm like, this is so obvious how this works. So obvious. And then you watch somebody else try and use it. Somebody who's smart, somebody I know is smart. And they're just like, you see them struggling with something. You're like, okay, maybe I need to change that. So, yeah. Anyway, but I agree with you.
So, as we're diving into this, and I want to make sure that I am clear on it. I am a very big fan of that shelter, and I have not got to use the half cert, because you're out, but I'll get one soon. I've got to order a stove as well, but obviously I've used your stoves before. I'm familiar with them, because it checks a lot of boxes. When you're going to use it. And so, does that mean I'll never use a 4-season shelter again? Of course not. When there's no trees, there's nothing to
Yeah.
burn, right? There is a time
Right.
and place for everything. But
Sure.
when you're someone, and just informational, and just want to make sure Brad doesn't pay me or anything else. I'm not saying this shit because he's paying me. When you're somebody that's looking at getting into backpacking and backpack hunting, you do this, right? It generally is going to be a 2 shelter deal, right? Or
Yeah.
3.
Oh, yeah.
And you've kind of solved that problem. I mean, other people are solving it too, but this shelter solves that problem. And when I say that, meaning it's hot, and you don't need a lot of shit, and you got to hike in a long ways, and the bugs aren't bad. You don't use the insert, and then you add the stove. You got all that, so it does check a lot of boxes and fix a lot of issues that and saves you money. So again, a huge shout out, because I honestly, when I got this, generally I'm not that impressed with shit because I've used enough where I'm like, yep, it's a shelter. Pretty innovative. I did steal my buddy's half cert to screw with it to see if I could. I'm always tinkering, right? I always like
Sure. Same.
see if I can maybe improve upon it. The only thing I really jacked with is I used a tripod and set up the tripod to where I could kind of triangle it to where the outer leg was also up against the wall when I had pitched it. I don't know if that makes any sense, just to save weight, because I generally have a tripod with me.
Yeah, I am tracking with you now.
Yeah, so because a trekking pole's not quite enough. Do you want to go cut a stick? Do you carry your pole? So I'm always kind of jacking around with things like that. But you can't really hack any weight off your shit. I will say that, because I generally am swapping out guy lines, and I'm tying specific knots instead of using tensioners or whatever. You got it about as light as you can get it.
Yeah. I don't know how we could. I mean, you could always use it. Less waterproof coating. Maybe we could bump down to a lighter weight fabric. But I think when you start getting down into for a hunting use, when you start getting below 20D fabric, I really think you're walking
pushing danger.
You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire, man. Because if you get any, as you know, it's like they're just not made to handle really heavy weather. And one of the things that I don't engage with people on this, but I mean, you can make something as light as you want, right? So I sometimes will have people be like, well, I can get a name your backpacking, your ultralight backpacking company. Like, I can get a tent from them that is lighter than yours. And I'm like, you sure can. It's a 15. They're using a 15 or a 10D fabric. I'm like, that thing is made for warm, sunny days on the Pacific Crest Trail or
paper mache.
Weekend backpack trips. Yeah, that is not but I won't say that, I really try hard we try very hard not to say anything like that. So, but it's hard, I think, for your especially hard for your average backpack hunter, especially people that are new into it and trying to wade through the massive information out there now, right? I was talking with somebody not too long ago, and I was like, when I started backpack hunting, I knew 0 people who did it. I didn't know anybody that did it. I was doing it strictly out of wanting to get away from other people. There were no forums. There were no websites. There were no. I wasn't even aware of any content out there about people that did it. Right? It was just this is 2005, 2006. There were people doing it. I know there were, but there wasn't the level of information, and frankly, overwhelming amount of information out there today is just unbelievable. And there's a lot of bad information out there, right? And it's hard to combat that sometimes. And so bringing that back to tents, it's there's a lot of people who have very strong opinions that a 10D fabric in a tent is totally acceptable for backpack hunting because they did it once, on a hunt.
Dude, I don't even use 10D for a dry sack. It's just not. It's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but you know what I mean, right? There are people who have very strong opinions and have been not based on a whole lot of experience. Whoa. But then, they might be very active on forums or whatever else. And I think the issue with that is that other people hear that and they think, well, this person has more experience than I do, so I should listen to them. So it's just like, that's one of the challenges I think we have is just, speaking from a position of experience, which we have as a user of the product, but at the same time, people have to do their own homework and come to their own conclusion. And so I can't foresee us in jumping that light to a fabric ever, because it just won't work for a lot of hunting applications.
Well, and I would say that some of those people are correct in their through their optics or their little bubble, and what they do. And when I say that, meaning if you go camping timber in early September, you can get away with not much. When I say not much of anything, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
But the thing is and I've read all kinds of different things of guys going lightweight. I can do 10 days with 27 pounds. It's like, well, I can't. And I don't want to, right? And so let's dive into that deeper. Like, let's not just say that. Let's talk about what are you giving up, right? How much comfort are you giving up? How much of your safety? And I'm probably like the dude from Taken, from being in a little bit more extreme conditions, to where, when you're dropped off, you're alone. Like you are all you have. And so why would you risk it for 8 ounces or 12? Right. It's just not, it doesn't, and it could be that I've had guys jumping in my tent because their shit blew down or whatever, it's just not worth the gamble. But it's also like arrows, like, hey, I have a 465 grain arrow that I might build a 472 grain and a 484. What do you think I should go with? And I'm like, fuck, I don't know any of them, the one on sale. Right. It doesn't really, it's not and when I say that, weight is always applicable, but what are you giving up? I wrote an article a long time ago on Rockslide. It was like, I think it was called Don't Chase the Rabbit. It was about going lightweight. And, I went to crazy, the shit we're talking about, and, I got pushed up the mountain, and it's like, okay, so for 4.5 more pounds, I would have had this percentage of increase of comfort and happiness and safety. And again, that's when you get into that 10D kind of fabric. 20D is you can go pretty light, but like I think once you get blown off the mountain, your tent blows down and you almost die, your perspective on life changes greatly.
Oh yeah, so like I totally agree, man. That's the similar message I tell people. It's like there's lightweight, and then there's, at some point though, you start sacrificing things that are just not, that are going to make you less comfortable or put you at risk potentially, depending on where you're hunting and what you're doing. I agree. You're in an early September archery elk hunt, like, take a tarp or take no shelter. I don't care. I mean, you're probably going to be fine, right? Maybe you don't need a tent at all. You can get away with things depending on what the weather's doing when you're out. But it's about, especially as you get later in the year, you're going to give up a lot of comfort or potentially safety, either way. So this is a good a good comment about our sleeping bags. So our sleeping bags are pretty dang light. Anybody who buys a sleeping bag, if you're just comparing, let's say you want a 20-degree sleeping bag, you're doing a comparison chart of all the 20-degree sleeping bags out there made out of goose down. You can pull up 15 20-degree sleeping bags. None of them are going to have the same weight. And what most people don't do, they're looking at the weight. They're not looking at the fill power, or the amount of down fill in those bags. And you're talking about swimming upstream. I feel like one of the things that I knew we would be swimming upstream on is if we are trying to make a sleeping bag that has what we call honest temperature rating, which means 20-degree comfort rating, not 20-degree survival rating. That means you have to use more down than a lot of all except maybe for 2 sleeping bag companies, let's say like Western Mountaineering and Feathered Friend. We have to use more down than pretty much all the other manufacturers, which means our bags are going to look a little heavier, right? But they're warmer. But most people don't, they're just like, 20-degree bag to 20-degree bag, right?
I'm going to take
Um,
this from you because sometimes I've
yeah,
noticed you're
please.
not that good of a salesman for your own shit. So, because your bag is the only one, and when I say this, I can say this with comfort and pride, and I'll argue it to the death. Your bag is the only bag in the outdoor industry that is even remotely close to Western. When I say close, as good or better than Western mountaineering or Feathered Friends, and is not lying about the rating. And I have a Stone Glacier bag. It's not a bad bag. It is not
Yeah,
rated correctly. It's off, right? And that's not a slight to the, it fucking is what it is. Don't get mad at me. It's just not rated correctly. And so when you look it
yeah,
down, you could technically raise a goose to have over like because you have 850 and 950.
yep,
It could be at 1200. That
yep,
would be the most pampered goose you've ever seen. Like wipe its ass every day, right? Because what it is when you look at like a 650 fill, it's almost like pot, the way my mountaineering buddy explained it to me 20 years ago. You've got more stems and sticks and the lower quality, right? So when you look at a lower quality down, if you take a gallon bucket, it takes more of a 650 fill, more weight, more feathers to fill that because it's not as fluffy and it's got more of the quills or whatever in it, things like that, compared to when you get to a 950 fill or 850 or 900. It's fluffier, so it takes less weight or less down to fill that bucket. So technically, if
yep,
the ratings are correctly, a 650 fill 20-degree bag is still a 20-degree bag. A 950 fill is still a 20-degree bag. It just took way less down because it's loftier, it's fluffier. And so what am I doing good so far? You want me to add anything to that?
yeah. No, the only thing I'd say is that the vast majority, and when I say vast majority, I mean everybody except for Feather Friends and Western Mountaineering, in my opinion, when they say a 20-degree bag, they're using survival or limit
Well,
rating
hold on.
somewhere in between.
I'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not there
okay.
yet.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
hold on.
You're getting to that. Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
dude, I have a pile of bags at my house. Jerry was laughing.
Okay.
I have 11 sleeping bags in my little gear shed, and I've given a lot away just testing, right? So
Oh, yeah.
when you get
Anyway,
to
keep
that,
going.
then you have the outer shell. So what is that
Mm-hmm.
outer shell made of? So if you get something like a Gore Windstop, or it's a little bit heavier, you can do like there's 10D, 20D. So that has a little bit of weight variance. And so, you can shred the lighter one easier. And then the zipper, you can cheat the system and go with a zipper that doesn't go down as low, towards the foot box, right? So that's going to save some weight. You can do a little bit of different things with the hood. So that's one thing. So then when you get, and this is what Brad was just talking about, you actually have you have to pay for it. You can go get your sleeping bag tested or EN rated, basically, and there's going to be a survival rating and a comfort. Now, that is variable for each person. It's also variable of how much of a dumb shit you are if you got in the bag when you're cold. But those are fairly realistic ratings, and a survival rating is truly survival. You will be fucking cold, but you won't die. A comfort rating is exactly what it sounds like, is you're comfortable. Now, if you're a cold sleeper, you probably could take away 5 degrees, meaning if you're freezing your ass off all the time, maybe it's a 25-degree bag instead of a 20, but there's ways around that too. If your feet are cold, put your puffy jacket around it, add some insulation. Other things to think about, if you have a comfort rating of 20 degrees and you're in a long wide and you're 5'6" and 143 pounds, there's more space to fill inside that bag to warm up. There's not little ninjas in that bag creating heat. You can use your sleeping bag to keep meat cold. It's an insulator. So when you get in the bag to keep it warm, your body needs to be warm to insulate that warmth. And so when you get into the survival rating, you're probably, if it's a 20 or a 0-degree survival rating, it's a 20 to 25 degree bag. Legitimately comfort. Go ahead, grab anything I'm missing here so far.
Oh man, no, you hit the nail on the head, which is that it's the Wild West, and there is no governing body that says a 20-degree bag has to be this warm. you can say whatever you want. There's no requirement. I mean, I could make a bag tomorrow and call it a 0-degree bag, but it's probably like a 40-degree bag, comfort temperature. I mean, there are no rules in the sleeping bag world, and I think people have just grown to distrust temperature ratings. And you hear it all the time from people who are like, well, I'm going to get a 20-degree bag, or I'm going to use we've had a lot of customers say this, like, I'm archery hunting for elk. I'm going to get a 0-degree bag just to be safe. And we tell everybody the same thing, which is like, that's insane. Do not do that. You're going to carry an extra pound of down around unnecessarily with our bags. But there's just so much distrust that's been built up for years and years, decades, with sleeping bag temperature ratings. And you're right, the comfort ratings it is variable, but there is a standardized test that you can get. And I have just found it to be, as a user of sleeping bags, I'm the same way as you. I probably have, I just gave away a bunch, but I probably still have 10 sleeping bags at home, different brands, different styles, and they're all over the map. I don't trust any of the temperature ratings on them. It's a very frustrating thing as a consumer not to know what to expect with the temperature rating. Like, what is this actually going to keep me warm at? Which is really all all of us want to know. Am I going to be warm?
So
at what temperature?
The standardized testing is the EN rating, which is the European norm. Now, there may be other ratings now, but that was kind of the tried and true rating. And so, dude, it's funny. So we could probably talk for hours about everything, but rewinding in life of me freezing to death in bags, of having people lying to me about the ratings, right? Like, you end up carrying a 0-degree bag when you don't need, but like right now, and people think I'm crazy, when I'm in BC, dude, I use a 30-degree bag most of the time. 20 at the coldest, because
do you run warm?
No, I run cold, but now I'll caveat or add to this. So I'm up there from July 20th to September 20th, let's say. So it'll snow every now and then, and I could potentially put myself in danger. The bottom line is, though, how often do you actually, like, put a thermometer out? 20 degrees is fucking cold. You're probably not sleeping when it's 40. You think it's 20, right? I mean, and so when I get in the bag, I'm warm, right? I do some push-ups. I walk around. I don't sweat. I generate some body heat. I put my meal in the foot box. So when I get in that bag's warm and I'm warm. And if I need to, I'll take my puffy jacket and wrap it around my feet, because my feet do get cold. I don't ever like to sleep in my socks. That's kind of bad business. It can make your feet kind of fragile, right? Your skin doesn't harden up because they're always wet with the socks. But I'll wrap my puffy around my feet. But you also have clothing you can wear. And so for me, like your bag, I guarantee I'll sleep with that bitch to mid-October. You're 20 degree with zero issue. And I'm a cold sleeper. The thing is, it's a true 20-degree bag.
True 20-degree bag. So, like, I sleep cold, but the one thing I did all last fall is I kept a thermometer, a digital thermometer with me that paired to an app on my phone, because I'm the same way as you. Like, I don't think most people, 20 degrees is cold, and our perception of temperature is just kind of like, is not accurate. I'm speaking for myself.
It's like the score of an elk and a mule deer. There's too many wide angles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's like, when it's below freezing, I know it's below freezing because I can see frost. But when it gets between 25 and 15 degrees, you're like, I don't know. It's like, I think it's this, but I don't really know. So in order to get to eliminate the subjectivity, what I was trying to do is measure each night. I could, this little thermometer would map out the temperature throughout the night. And so I could get up in the morning and look at the nighttime temperature and see like how cold it got, how it fluctuated. And then I could match it up against my perceived comfort level. Did I wake up because I was cold or not? All those things. And I did that with our 20 degree and our 0 degree bag. And I actually, on a November mule deer hunt, it got pretty cold. it got down to 1 degree. One night, the next night was like 3 degrees, and then it went down up to, it got balmy, went up to 7 degrees. But I could match that perception of comfort against the actual temperature, and which was really helpful, right? So then you're saying, okay, I know how this thing is done in the lab. How does it actually? How do I feel in this bag as a cold sleeper in those temperatures that we are advertising? And that the validating part was like I was warm in our zero at 1 degree. Didn't quite make it to 0 degrees, but it was at 1 degree, I was warm in that bag, which was validating for what we're advertising in the bag. But yeah, temperature ratings, man, are just, it's so funny to me how wild they can be and how much variety there is in the marketplace.
The thing too, like I said, you have to do your part. If you go back to camp, and I'm very anal, retentive, and diligent about a lot of things in backpack hunting. So when we get back to camp, I'm a fire builder. If I got a fire, changes things up a little bit. But when I get back to camp, if I just sit there and we shoot the shit and it's getting cold, I'm going to be cold getting in the bag, which means it's going to take a while to regenerate heat or generate heat in my body, which is means it's going to take a while to get the bag warm. And so, man, I put the meal, right, whatever it's Peak or whoever the hell I'm using, I put that in the foot box of the bag. I get that warm. I'm layered up. I got some clothing on. I'll go walk around. I'll knock out some push-ups. I get some body heat. I come in. I strip my shit off. I wedge it under my pillow and zip that bag up. And then I'll warm up a little bit and I'll bring my meal up and I just eat my meal like a little fat kid sticking out. You know what I mean? Like because I hate sleeping cold, but I don't want to carry the weight, right? I don't want to carry. And again, if you're bringing puffy pants and a puffy jacket, your 20-degree bag comfort rating is a 0 if you can keep your feet
warm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I we had people using our 20-degree bag down, like people that sleep warmer, down to like I think 12 or 13 degrees was the coldest they used it down to, and they were saying they were warm. I probably wouldn't do that unless I had puffy pants. If I had my puffy pants, puffy jacket on, absolutely I could run that 20 down to those temperatures. But I again, like I sleep colder, so I have to. Maybe I'm like I don't like being cold at night, Aaron, at all, because then you just don't sleep.
Yeah,
not as good. I'm not as happy to be out there.
I'll build a fire just to put my feet by it before bed to warm them up because my feet are the biggest problem. My feet and my hands, but my feet get, cold. So, but no, your bags they're legit. I was surprised because I get, again, I'm cynical over time, like you probably are too, like a little bit cynical.
Oh, yeah.
You get handed absolutely. Something to me. So
the industry will make you cynical.
Oh Lord, yeah. And again, like I think as people are looking at gear, because and you offer a ton of different stuff, but when you're looking at gear, part of it is like when you have like I have in my house now, I only have 2 sleeping bags now, which is yours and Western Mountaineering. But when I look at shelters, I have everything from Hilleberg to MSR. I've got Nemo, the whatchamacallit that makes the scarp, the tarp tent. I got some hyper.
Oh, yeah.
I've got hyper lights. The one thing I get those for is testing, right? Is just, to kind of see. But, at the end of the day, when you are buying from Hyperlight or tarp tent or MSR, you're really not supporting hunters, and you may actually be supporting anti-hunters and second. So, that's a big part of it as well, which is kind of cool to see you build a good sleeping bag. And I don't know, everybody I've ever talked to at Western Mountaineering is just chill. They don't, whatever, you know what I mean? They don't get involved. But, you go to the factory, I can say it's like grandma's cookies. Like it's old lady sewing those bags together. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that this is going to be full circle. I think that's one of the things that is probably perhaps, if I'm admitting some frustration sometimes, it is that when you support a hunting, and I'll just speak for us, like we give a lot, I give a lot, we give back a lot. We support hunting. I cut a fair amount of checks to groups that are doing habitat work, that are doing whatever work that's supporting the future of hunting. and our rights to hunt. Um, the and this is nothing against the outdoor industry companies, but they are not doing. I would wager a bet that I'm not gonna even name a brand, but like pick your brand. Like when was the last time they cut a check to Army F, Mule Deer Foundation, whatever, right? Or or like we do a fundraiser for our local 3D range, raised like $5,000 last year for targets. Like we give back to the community, and so to the extent that that matters to people, like and again, like I think it's a question like it has to be a good product first, but I do think that should weigh into people's calculation a little bit. Is like, am I supporting the companies that are supporting the thing that I care about, that are working, that are actively giving back to the community, actively working to protect our right to hunt and fish in the future? Because there are just a lot of companies in the general outdoor space that are not doing that. At best, they're not giving back to the community, and at worst, maybe they are giving to companies or organizations that are fighting against the future of hunting. So we might quibble about like where things are made, like, and we'll have people that maybe won't want to buy product of ours because it isn't made in the U.S. But again, this is like full circle. I'm like, yeah, but we're an American company. We have real jobs. We're paying wages for Americans right here in Boise, Idaho, and we're giving back to the future of hunting. So like, but we like to focus on like the country of origin right now instead of like maybe taking a step back and looking at the big picture.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, and I mean that's I and again, I don't want to call like in the political climate that we have right now, and obviously, like we talked about the forums and that's made here and it's made there, and I get all of that, but like the reality is, at the end of the day, you really want to support the companies that are putting money into hunting and veterans affairs. Those are the two big ones for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you can, and so like. Again, I mean, I was very happy that your sleeping bag didn't suck because while I love Feathered Friends and Western Mountaineering, they're not a hunting company. And I don't have anything negative to say about those companies at all. But if I can, if I can support a company that has as good or better of a product, to me, the money thing at that point isn't nearly as important. When I say that, I spend money on gear and I don't have other hobbies. So, if your bag's $100 more, but it's by hunting, I don't mind that. I know other people do, but at least your money's going to companies that put money back into the industry, which is important. That's one of the reasons I'm such a Jetboil dude. Like I can't say enough bad shit about Jetboil because they'll take your money. They hate hunters like they do. And that's why I don't ever support Jetboil. Is I've seen it firsthand at the Outdoor Retailer Show, dude. They do not like hunters, and it frustrates me because they pretend like they do. So I'm going off the deep end here, but yeah.
No, it makes me feel better. I've been an MSR windburner guy for a long time, so it makes me feel better about my choice. I didn't know that though.
Dude, I challenge South Cox didn't believe me because I was giving him crap about his communist Jetboil, and South goes to the Outdoor Retailer Show every year. I said, go to the booth, tell him you're a hunter. Let me know what happens. He bought a Jetboil the next day. Or excuse me, he sold his Jetboil and bought a windburner the next day.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah. I just think that like it's I think I agree with you. Like I think we should I try to support other hunting brands when there are comparable products. I think we shouldn't as a community, like I don't think it should be an excuse for making subpar products. You know what I mean? Like the product has to be good, and I think that is a reasonable expectation for all of us to have. Like the product still needs to be good, but if it comes down to like a few bucks saved here or there, or for me, it's like I'm going to support the brand. I like to vote with my dollars. And I'm going to support the companies that I think are doing the things that I value. Certainly, like giving back to veterans is important. Hunting is important. So, anyway, I not to get on a soapbox about it, but I know that not everybody thinks about those things, but it certainly is something worth considering.
This tariff thing may start knocking, make people, think about certain things. But, again, like I've always tried, whatever polarizing, like me or hate me. One of the things I've always tried, I love helping and teaching people and hopefully saving them money. And the one thing again, with your stuff that I can say, that I don't have to worry about, like, it's good, it works well, and it's easy to set up. It checks a lot of boxes. The shelter, again, like I was very impressed with that shelter and bag, just because I can use it for all 4 seasons. I haven't had a chance to use your stove at great length, like I said, just clients and
Yeah,
shit. But yeah, no, I was happy, dude. So I appreciate. I wish I
appreciate
would have
that.
met you sooner. I've always heard great things
Yeah,
about you, but no, I appreciate what you do for the industry, and it's good stuff. And you make knives as well. Like, what else do you make? We were talking about, the things I.
yeah. We make our knives are. It's funny. We had somebody recently. They're like, "Why don't you spin off your knives and form a separate company? You'd probably be better known for making really good knives." I told this person, I was like, "That's a very fair point, because we're not known as a knife company, but we do sell a lot of knives, and we have a lot of very loyal knife customers." Um, yeah, it's similar. We make, like, I would say, you know, uh, do it all, like, high end hunting knives. We have a belt called our Kodiak belt, which is like a knife sharpener belt buckle in one combo. We only make one belt, and the reason we make a belt is because after we made knives, a lot of customers were like, "What do you think I should sharpen my knife with? Will you guys make a knife sharpener, a field knife sharpener?" And I would tell everybody the same thing, which is like, there are 1,000 small knife sharpeners out there that you can pack with you that are very affordable or cheap. Like, I'm not going to just make another one of those because there's so many of them out there. Um, and so but I wanted to, as we tend to do in this space, create a multi-use product. And so what, that was the initial idea, was to try and figure out how I can integrate a knife sharpener into something else that I was wearing or taking with me. And it took a long time to figure out how to make the Kodiak belt, like what materials, how to design, the whole thing. But sell a Kodiak belt, and then if we talked about the game bags, and then our trekking poles. We have our own patented, we call our Grip Adapt handle, which is just the top of the handle has a 1/4 20 threaded insert. You can pop off the top cap, and then we have a couple of attachments that go in there. One is a shooting yoke, so you can use it as a monopod. Um, and then the other attachment is our X3 adapter, which allows you to either run your binos off your trekking pole, because most bino tripod adapters have a 1/4 20 female end, and so you can use our X3 adapter to thread in to the bottom of most bino tripod adapters for some stabilized glass. If you're not going to run on a tripod, I always tell people that, like, when I'm mule deer hunting, I'm going to always run my binos on a tripod, but there are times where I don't want to get my tripod out, or if I'm elk hunting, I typically don't care as much um, about really picking apart inches on an animal, and that's when I use it. And then the X3 adapter also allows you to connect two poles together. That was the original idea. Is I wanted to be able to connect two trekking poles together in line to use them to pitch a tent, because all of the other trekking pole connecting systems out there, and I do mean all of them that I'm aware of, they're kind of janky, and they involve, fabric or Velcro. You kind of strap the handles next to each other, and then your trekking poles end up cattywampus and kind of angled. It's not a very dialed system. So, anyways, those are our trekking poles, and our trekking poles, I just got in a conversation with somebody about this the other day, because I think they had this impression that we were buying trekking poles that were like white labeling them and putting our logo on them, and I had to tell them, like, no. We engineered and designed these poles, everything from the carbon fiber to the thickness of the walls. Like, it is our design. We had, our engineer. We worked with the factory to engineer these and make them up to our spec, and specifically making sure that the walls of the poles are thick enough to handle what we consider to be the needs of the hunter, which, you have 100 pounds on your back and you're really leaning in your trekking pole. My expectation is those poles are not going to break. And I think a lot of back to an earlier comment I made, a lot of the trekking poles out there, whether you're buying a Costco pair or even a pair made by some of the other brands out there, they're good poles, but they are not making them to handle somebody packing 100 pounds on their back. They just aren't. And why would they? Because that's a very specific thing that hunters do. It's not something that your general weekend users do.
Yeah, I forgot earlier when I brought up trekking poles because I was trying to tee you up softballs, and then we started talking about other shit because there are. Well, I won't mention names. There are companies that are a lick and stick type of a deal in the industry, and I'm not saying they make bad trekking poles, but I can tell you 3 specific companies. They're the exact same trekking pole, made at the exact same factory. Like without a doubt, I've seen it. Like no, I knew yours were not. I don't have a set of yours. I had clients that had them pretty quickly. If you know what you're looking at, they're not the same or whatever. So, but yeah, we started talking about other crap, and I forgot I was trying to tee you up a softball because yours is not a lick and stick trekking pole.
It is not, no. Yeah, and I am the worst. I'm not a great salesman, Aaron. I just tend to my MO is I tend to like just let the product speak for itself. Like if I have to tell somebody that we make something that's better than everything else, I feel like I'm not doing my job correctly. And maybe that's a character flaw, but
I don't know. If you're like me, then everybody hates you because you tell the truth. So, there's bad sides to both.
Yeah.
No, and it's not like the thing is like that I don't really get too Twitter-pated over it because it's like, hey, it's not like the other trekking poles are bad. They're just not quite as good, right? And then when I say that, meaning I've used Lecky and Black Diamond, I've got a set of Peaks, I got a set of Team Easties, and, there's a lot of similarities to all of those. Trekking poles, and they're not bad trekking poles. They're just, there's some that are better.
Well, yeah, I always tell people like your trekking poles will work fine until they don't. It's like a binary thing, right? You'll be like, I've used these things for whatever on these trips, and they've worked fine, and then they're gonna, they break on you, and you're like, well, maybe they aren't as good as I thought they were. But you don't. They're one of those interesting products where it's like you don't know what they can handle until you push them to the breaking point, and then you will find out very quickly what they can handle. But when you're just using them on, let's say, like average for an average use case, just walking up a hill or down a hill, like they're going to work just fine, right? But there is a difference between the ones that are made to handle abuse and the ones that are not, and you will find out when you actually need to rely on them and you have a lot of weight on your back. That's when you will find out very quickly if they're able to withstand the rigors of mountain hunting. But yeah, no, I don't do anything white label. Like everything we do is designed, engineered in-house. Yeah, everything.
Yeah. No, that's
I'm too anal.
Well, I think when your brain, because our brains are probably a lot alike on those things. So, like, if you're a guy that gets a product and immediately looks at hacking it apart to make it better, that's probably a good thing, right? I mean, that means you're really dissecting, the pros and the cons and really, like, how you can make it lighter or stronger or more efficient or functional or whatever. And it seems like your kind of brain works the same way. And I mean, I have some really expensive gear that's got some things done to it where people are like, that was $3,000. And I'm like, yeah, it was. And it's better now. And to me, right? It's better for me.
Yeah,
So yeah, and my brain has always just worked that way. So no, it's good to hear. And I kind of figured you were the same way. So.
Oh yeah. It's a tortured place to be inside my head sometimes when I'm working on something.
Yeah.
Or you're just like, oh, okay, I got to figure out how to make this different or better. Like it's tough. It's hard because as soon as when you really just start listening to when you're in that mindset, or at least I'll speak for myself here. When I'm in that mindset, it's very hard for me to be happy with a product where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good, but and then you just start like, you're always picking stuff apart instead of just being like, yeah, this works. Like, I'm not gonna overthink it.
Well,
I'm just not wired that way.
no, and I mean, if you've ever been on the mountain with me where I'm testing out gear, you'll hear me things come out of my mouth, but say things like, you know what? A college kid designed this that's never been in the field. Look at this. And I'll start picking it apart. And I'll bring up, I mean, Brunton compasses are great compasses. I had one of their compasses, and immediately when I got it, the way the lanyard attached to it, the way they had this little boot that fit on the bottom, I'm like, you can lose this entire compass the way it's attached. Like, who the hell is nabbed? And so I was breaking it apart, and guys were like, is your brain like that all the time? I'm like, yeah, it's horrible. Like, immediately when you know what I mean? Because I'm looking at how can it fail? Totally. How can, whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And that, yeah, it's a good thing. It's like a blessing and a curse. It's like why I'm doing what I'm doing. And also, sometimes I just want to not be, I just want to go out and use stuff and not be thinking about it. But it has made me like this whole journey though has made me pay attention to, like, anytime I'm using anything that doesn't just work or that I have to really think about how to make it work. My reaction to that now is that whoever, and I'm not talking about the hunting industry. I'm just talking about like life in general. It's like, if I can't figure out how to use it fairly quickly and intuitively, I'm like, there's something is wrong with the design of this product, or they have not communicated to the end user very well, like how to use this thing. If I can't figure out how to use it in relative short order, so I think those are good things to pay attention to, both as a gear designer and as
No, I would agree. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
No, there we go. No, I would agree. I mean, honestly, man, now with the fly fishing thing, like I'm fly fishing a lot. I'm looking at fly fishing packs like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, again, whatever, make it better. But either way, we've hit an hour and a half, and I should probably stop talking and taking up your day. But dude, I appreciate everything. I always love conversations like this. Anyway, being a gear junkie. But where can everybody, the website and all the normal stuff, where can people go?
Oh yeah, just argalioutdoors.com, Argali Official on Instagram, and I think just Argali on YouTube.
Gotcha.
And then there's like, my boring personal social media, which is just Brad A. Brooks. But that's just like family stuff and other things I'm interested in, like rock climbing and hunting. So.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Anything you want to hit on that I might have missed?
No, man. I think we covered a lot of ground, and yeah, I appreciate the conversation, and appreciate you having me on, and I'll figure out the half insert situation here and get back to you.
Cool. Yeah, do that. Oh, well, I'll talk to you here in a sec before we hang up, because I need to order a stove as well. But the only thing I'd say, I'm gonna have some fairly in-depth, not that there's not a ton out there, but my thoughts and whatever. Jerry's coming down. We're actually going on a float camping trip or whatever. So, with some of the different products that you offer, kind of just showing them how they work and everything else. So, people can check those out as well. So yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. Thanks for everything you're doing for the industry. Great products. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.